game plan against. So I'm glad I'm going to get to work with you guys. The future is so bright.
Stephanie White's name has been everywhere.
You know, I like to challenge them on a number of levels.
Plastered across headlines with one explosive claim that she urged the entire WNBA to stop. But did she actually say that? Or is this just another rumor twisted into drama for clicks? Behind the frenzy lies a quieter truth. Injuries, fan frustration, and media spin bending the story into something far bigger than reality. White herself had been battling a groin injury recently, adding fuel to the chaos. So the real question is this: what's fact and what's noise? Stay with me, because what comes next flips the headline on its head. The sports world thrives on drama, and last week it had its perfect storm. Whispers spread like lightning. The claim that the Indiana Fever were collapsing under pressure, and her coach wanted nothing less than a full league shutdown. The idea itself was shocking enough to spread from basketball forums to national talk shows. But pause for a second. Did it really happen? Or was it just another wildfire rumor dressed up as truth? On the surface, the story sounded irresistible. The Fever are under brighter lights than ever. Caitlin Clark's arrival turned them into the face of the league, drawing record crowds and unprecedented coverage. Every lineup shift, every limp from an injured player, every clip remark is dissected like breaking news. In that environment, even the faintest speculation can balloon into a headline powerful enough to dominate for weeks. So when fans saw hints that White was urging a pause to the season, the story had everything it needed: tension, star power, and just enough ambiguity to feel believable. Within hours, it wasn't just basketball chatter, it was dinner table conversation nationwide. But here's where the twist comes in. There was no press conference where Stephanie White slammed her fist and demanded the WNBA shut down. No dramatic walkout by Fever players. No official plea from the organization. What actually existed were careful, deliberate updates, the kind any coach would give when juggling injuries and expectations. The viral version of events burned hot, but reality was far more measured and far more human. To see it clearly, we have to look at what White really said. Strip away the noise, and her words tell a very different story. She never suggested the league pause. She never hinted her team was quitting. What she did was explain the practical challenges of an injured roster. We've got to figure out who can play in certain roles, she said. What are our substitution patterns going to be? What wrinkles can we throw out there? That's not surrender. That's problem solving. A coach adjusting, improvising, doing her job. She also spoke about the grind of the schedule. Facing powerhouse teams in back-to-back games. She stressed the need to maximize downtime, practice, recovery, recalibration. Again, not collapse, not crisis, just realism. The WNBA season is punishing, and depth matters when stars are sidelined. But here's the catch. Measured words don't sell. A thoughtful comment about substitution patterns doesn't trend. A steady tone about recovery doesn't light up YouTube feeds. So fragments of her remarks were clipped, stretched, and reframed into something outrageous. We need practice time became the team is collapsing. We're figuring out how to play without certain players became Fever quits. It wasn't reporting. It was theater. Clickbait. And in the process, Stephanie White's actual voice, calm, steady, professional, was erased. What she gave were honest but careful updates, designed to keep fans informed without throwing players under the bus. What she never gave was a call to halt the WNBA. That part existed only in the echo chamber of speculation to be why the time her words were chewed up and blasted across social media. The gap between what Stephanie White actually said and what people believed she said couldn't have been wider. But how does a measured update morph into a storm of speculation? Keep watching. Caitlin Clark's injuries and the crushing weight of patience. That's the detail at the heart of this story. The most celebrated rookie in WNBA history isn't just sore. She's hurt. Not a sit out a quarter and ice it hurt. Clark is sidelined with a painful bone bruise in her left ankle, paired with a nagging groin strain. For any player, that's serious. But for Clark, whose entire game depends on lightning cuts, speed, and explosive drives, it's a minefield. Push too soon, and the consequences could last far beyond one season. A bone bruise isn't sprain. It lingers. sometimes for months. The pain doesn't leave just because the swelling fades. Add in a groin strain, one of the most notorious injuries for coming back the moment you think it's gone, and you've got a recipe for repeat setbacks. Stephanie White knows it. The Fever's medical team knows it. And anyone who has seen Clark play fearless basketball knows the hardest challenge might be convincing her to slow down. This is the lens through which White's careful updates should be seen. She wasn't a coach signaling surrender. She was a leader protecting her franchise cornerstone. The Fever didn't draft Clark for 1 year of highlight reels. They drafted her to reshape the future. And for that, long-term health is non-negotiable. But patience rarely satisfies fans. When updates feel vague, when timelines stretch, people grow restless. Every missed practice sparks a headline. Every game without her fuels speculation. Is she frustrated? Is she being held back? Could she be thinking of walking away? None of these questions are rooted in fact, but they thrive in uncertainty. And that's why White's measured words became so easy to twist. Instead of being read as protection, they were recast as panic. Instead of recovery, the narrative shifted to quitting. And once that wildfire caught, the truth was buried. Because the truth is far simpler and far more human. Clark isn't quitting. She's healing. White isn't calling for the WNBA to stop. She's buying time, preserving her team's rhythm, and shielding her young star from disaster. But in the high-stakes, high-drama arena of sports fandom, patience doesn't trend. Drama does. So if Stephanie White never called for a shutdown, and if Clark's injuries explain the Fever struggles, how did the story spin so wildly out of control? The answer lies in the engine of modern sports media, clickbait. In today's digital economy, accuracy is optional. Subtlety doesn't sell. A headline like, Clark's recovery taking longer than expected, is true, but it dies in the feed. It doesn't spark outrage, it doesn't fuel speculation, and it doesn't pull millions of eyeballs. Twist it, though. Stephanie White says Fever ready to quit. And suddenly, you've got a viral storm. This is the reality of the attention market. Blogs, media outlets, YouTubers, they're all competing for clicks because clicks mean money. The more shocking the headline, the more fans stop scrolling, start sharing, and light up the algorithm. Facts are secondary. Emotion is everything. And with Caitlin Clark, emotion is currency. That's why the transformation begins subtle. White says, we need to figure out how to play without certain players. That mutates into Fever collapsing without Clark. She says, we need more practice time. That's twisted into coach losing control. Piece by piece, her context vanishes until what remains is unrecognizable. And once that distorted version takes flight, no correction can catch it. Social media fuels the fire. People don't read full articles. They skim headlines, share screenshots, cut 10-second clips stripped of nuance. Outrage spreads faster than accuracy ever will. Soon, what started as a small misquote hardens into common knowledge. This isn't new. Sports history is full of players and coaches whose words were reshaped into controversy. But with Caitlin Clark's arrival, the stakes have never been higher. She isn't just another rookie. She's the face of a movement, the reason millions suddenly turn their eyes to the WNBA. That means every word about her gets magnified and every silence is twisted into something it's not. The irony? Stephanie White's cautious updates, meant to shield Clark from further harm, became the very oxygen that kept the rumor alive. By choosing caution over bold declarations, she left room for speculation. And in the world of clickbait, speculation is the spark. So was White's silence a shield for Clark, or the spark that fed obsession? Keep watching. Fans, frustration, and fueling the fire. If clickbait headlines are sparks, then fans are the oxygen. And when the name is Caitlin Clark, the fandom isn't just passionate, it's relentless. Every substitution, every play, every absence becomes an argument. That level of devotion is a gift for the WNBA, but it's also a double-edged sword, because once frustration builds, the noise can drown out reality. Look at what the Fever were facing. They didn't just draft a rookie. They drafted a phenomenon. Clark arrived with more buzz than anyone in recent memory. bringing national coverage, record-breaking ticket sales, and millions of fresh eyes. Fans who watched her dominate at Iowa expected one thing: more magic. Anything less felt like failure. But pro basketball doesn't bend to expectation. Clark's injuries forced her off the floor. White reshuffled lineups to protect her, even moved her off the ball to ease the physical grind. Smart, strategic choices for the long haul. But to fans starving for highlights, they looked like sabotage. Online, the divide exploded. Reddit threads accused White of holding her back. Twitter lit up with claims she was unhappy. YouTube thumbnails screamed she was ready to quit. None of it had proof, but in sports, perception spreads faster than fact. And this is how frustration mutates into conspiracy. Devoted supporters, desperate for answers, start connecting dots that don't exist. A missed practice becomes a secret dispute. A cautious quote becomes proof of discontent. Repeated enough times, and rumor starts to look like truth. The irony? Fans and franchise want the same thing, for Clark to thrive. But passion twists the view. What feels like protection inside the locker room looks like limitation from outside it. What feels like patience to a coach looks like delay to a restless crowd. That gap is where rumors grow, and with them, pressure. Because once fans start asking if their star is unhappy or worse, thinking of leaving, the talk doesn't stay online. It spills into arenas, into post-game interviews, into every atmosphere Clark walks into. Sponsors pick it up. Commentators amplify it. And the team feels the weight of noise it never created. For White, it's a no-win game. Say too much, and she's accused of oversharing. Say too little, and she's accused of hiding the truth. For Clark, the pressure is almost superhuman. Heal fast, play flawlessly, and deliver under the brightest spotlight women's basketball has ever seen. And so, the cycle keeps spinning. Fans push the rumor. Media amplifies it. The team fights through a storm they didn't make. At its core, this isn't about quitting at all. It's about passion, pressure, and perception colliding until they warp reality. But here's the twist. Are these rumors even about Caitlin Clark anymore? Or are they revealing the crushing weight on Stephanie White herself? Stay tuned, because the bigger picture changes everything. Pressure on White and the WNBA. Step back, and the truth is bigger than one rumor or one player. It's about the immense pressure pressing down on Stephanie White and the WNBA itself. Drafting Clark didn't just bring talent. It brought expectations on a historic scale. Clark wasn't introduced as just a rookie. She was painted as a savior for the Fever, maybe even for the league. A thrilling narrative, but one with zero room for mistakes. For White, that means every rotation, every scheme, even the look on her face, is dissected in real time. Move Clark off the ball to protect her legs? Some call it strategy. Others call it sabotage. They say she's mismanaging a generational star. Hold Clark out longer than expected, and critics claim she's hiding the truth. In a climate this charged, perception becomes as powerful as performance. And then comes the league itself. The WNBA is riding a surge like never before. Ticket sales exploding, TV ratings peaking, cultural relevance at its highest, all with Caitlin Clark at the center. That spotlight is a blessing, but it also magnifies every crack. A rumor about quitting doesn't just stick to Indiana. It ripples across the league, shaping how outsiders judge the stability of women's basketball as a whole. Sponsors, broadcasters, and casual fans are watching every move. That's why Stephanie White's caution carries so much weight. She isn't just protecting Clark's body. She's guarding the credibility of a franchise and, in many ways, the league's momentum. But the job is brutal. How do you balance honesty with protection when every single word you utter can be twisted into a viral headline? The truth is, White is playing two games at once. On the court, she's wrestling with injuries, rotations, and the grind of a relentless season. Off the court, she's battling a narrative machine that can flip overnight, fueled by fans, media, and speculation. Few coaches in league history have faced this exact cocktail of pressure and spotlight. And that's the bigger picture here. This rumor about quitting isn't just noise. It's a warning sign about how thin the line is between growth and chaos in modern sports. The Fever need patience, the league needs stability, and White needs the breathing room to lead. But in a world run by clicks and hot takes, that space is disappearing fast. So what happens now? When the dust finally settles, the dramatic headlines fade. No, Caitlin Clark isn't leaving. No, the Fever aren't quitting. And no, Stephanie White never demanded a league shutdown. What remains is far less flashy, but far more real. A team in transition, a superstar healing, and a league learning how to manage its sudden explosion of attention. Clark will return, not when fans demand it, not when critics shout for it, but when her body is truly ready. This isn't about silencing the noise. It's about protecting her future. White knows it, and she's willing to take the heat until that day comes. And when Clark does step back onto the court, it won't just be a return. It'll be a statement, a chance to prove that patience pays and that storms of speculation can be flipped into fuel. But here's the haunting question. Will the noise ever really go away? Once a rumor this big is born, it lingers. A missed practice? Whispers restart. A tough loss? Suddenly the conspiracy theories return. That's the reality of modern sports. Headlines aren't built for accuracy. They're engineered for impact. Fans don't crave steady truth. They crave drama, conflict, resolution. And with someone as magnetic as Caitlin Clark, the smallest flicker of a story can ignite into a league-wide firestorm overnight. For the WNBA, that's both opportunity and danger. The league has never basked in this much attention. But attention brings pressure. Can it channel the surge into lasting growth? Or will it spend season after season putting out fires it never started? For Stephanie White, the battle is just as personal. She isn't only coaching basketball. She's managing a narrative that could define her career. Every lineup, every minute Clark sits, every word at a press table will be magnified 100-fold. In the end, here's the truth. The Fever aren't quitting. Clark isn't walking away. And the WNBA isn't on pause. What's happening is simpler, but far more revealing. A team, a coach, and a league are learning to survive under the crushing weight of unprecedented attention. The real question isn't if Caitlin Clark will come back. She will. The real question is whether her return will silence the chaos or feed it even more. So, what do you think? Did the Indiana Fever drama expose real cracks in the WNBA? Or was it all just chaos cooked up by the media? Drop your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.